So these, you've all heard from all of these people already today. So we thought we'd bring you back on stage just to talk a little bit about the area, which is entrepreneurship through social inclusion through entrepreneurship, and the policies we have in Norway. And I thought, are there any misconceptions out there that we should be dispelling today about this entrepreneurship and social inclusion? Anyone like to start us off? There we go.
I'm not sure if, yeah, I have some. I think we covered it already, but I think this part where entrepreneurship being for elite, right? Entrepreneurship is not about pitching contests. It's about talking with your customers, developing this, and there's a systematic approach to it that can be learned. I think it's an open door here, but that might have been a misconception, at least earlier.
I think I've heard a lot of people talk about this kind of misconception. I think it's the Mark Zuckerbergs and those guys out there. They've sort of this company being started in a garage by a 32-year-old man. That's kind of a big misconception out there, that companies are started in garages by young men. Anybody else? Yeah, Benedicta.
On that one, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think it's very stereotypical to think that way, but like I said, most people think that entrepreneurs are young men. And actually, when it first of all comes to the age, it's actually, the average is 40 years old when entrepreneurs start. At Gründeria, it's actually 45. So what I have seen is that when entrepreneurs, they take the first step, when they have the knowledge and the experience from their industry, and they have probably seen a problem and they have a solution that they want to investigate further. And then also when it comes to the gender, now it's more and more women that are also becoming entrepreneurs. And in Norway at the moment, it's about 33%, and the number is increasing. At our place, it's now 48% women. And I think that is also because we have this supportive community which helps entrepreneurs to grow. And I think that's very important for women especially. And if you all do that in your communities, I think it will be more and more women that are entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think you said it in your talk that it's people that make the magic happen. Meeting people, it's those meetings that are so important. Fredrik?
I think also we've tied a little bit into that is there's always a conception of big companies earning a lot of money, and it will take a long time. But there's so many entrepreneurs. Most of the entrepreneurs, they are hairdressers. They start their own simple, self-employed, getting basically, instead of getting a job, you create your own job. And I think most of the value created in Norway is also through small, medium-sized companies between 5 to 10 employees. So I think being an entrepreneur, there's a lot of people out there that has amazing stories just by being self-employed in their own companies.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's completely correct what you say there about it's small and medium-sized enterprises that create most of the value, especially in Norway and other countries in the world. I think you work in South Africa, and it's these entrepreneurs just creating their own jobs that really, really contribute to the economy and the GDP. Ellen?
Yes, and I think that we sometimes struggle with the surrounding world, thinking that there's something wrong with the people connected to NAV. But they aren't. You know, unemployment, it can happen to anyone. No one is immune to unemployment. So to have the respect for that, the people are full of resources and can be entrepreneurs, same as everybody else. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that fact, that misconception you have there about the people who end up in the
they end up.
Yeah, sorry, there you go, got it. Yeah, caught me in it. Yeah, but the people that land in a situation where they need to come to NAV for help, they can be anything from 18, 20-year-olds to 60-year-olds and there are enormous resources. And I've been lucky enough to work with loads of them, and there really have been some amazing companies created through the program that you support. Anita, did you no, it was Erlend, sorry.
I was just wanted to follow up on what Ellen said, and I think it's really about giving people the opportunity to do something. And we have had this most amazing story with that. That was a very young lady with some diagnosis. That, yeah, but not, we're talking about social inclusion. I never seen her outside her room, her office. And she is now, it's not full-time, but she's employing 12 people in game development. And that's partly through the NAV programs. And she got the belief, she got the support, and people were starting to buy into what she's doing, and her belief is growing, and everybody is saying this can be something that's beneficial for all.
I was thinking if you're going to have proper inclusion through these programs, you need to make sure it doesn't last for as short as 1 year. If you want to have developed tech companies, which is what I'm doing, 1 year is ridiculous. There is not going to be any equality. There's going to be loads of people who are in a situation where they can't look after themselves financially, and you're not fundable for the first 3 or 4 years, more than likely.
Probably one of the biggest obstacles is the time cap.
The length, I totally agree with you. The length is sort of, it's rigged for, like you said, easy concepts, like hairdressers and, yeah, but not tech companies. You need a longer period of time. So I agree with you. On the other hand, it's fabulous, isn't it, that you can be unemployed and actually get paid for setting up a business for a year. So if you're an ordinary entrepreneur, on the outside of the system, you don't have that opportunity. So, but I agree with you. It should be for a longer period of time, because companies like yours, they are not like finished in 1 year. They're or ready to fly.
It is exclusion. There is exclusion in it because you cannot do it unless, like for me, I remember being a single parent with 2 kids. Of course, I couldn't do anything like this. So I was completely depending on my partner with a proper job in the university. So, yeah, it's definitely exclusion in that.
So are there any other major obstacles? We've talked about the time cap. What other obstacles are there for people, for this inclusion through entrepreneurship?
I think it's funding, obviously.
Yeah, funding is a big problem. I think that's everywhere. And I think that's probably one of the big things that especially companies like yourselves come up with, is meeting the funding.
It's, there is so much unknown discrimination towards women when it comes to funding, especially with scale-ups. And it's not anybody being rude or saying sexist things or this is on a subconscious level. So we still have in Norway embarrassing numbers. When it comes to funding tech companies, and especially later on in the funding rounds, women get about less than 2% of the funding. And that's just embarrassing. Being Norway and talking about equality and talking about inclusion of everyone, it doesn't work. And this is something I think needs to be talked about more openly, and we need to start thinking, why do we have, well, now most of the people with proper funding money, with proper abilities to invest, they are older men. Older white men, and they invest in people. This is interesting from a sociologist's point of view. They invest and trust people who look like themselves. It's like we've done for decades. We've employed people very much like ourselves. So if we're going to have equality and proper inclusion, we need to build bigger companies. That means we need to have funding more than 1 year to start with, and we also need the private funding, and we need to talk about this strange kind of discrimination that's going on there, because research is showing us that female entrepreneurs are being asked more difficult and negative questions than their equal company run by men.
A good topics, considering yesterday was Women's Day.
I know.
And
I just wanted to to add to that, because we are also working with several migrant programs in Norway, and I think generally speaking, for all of you, and to challenge us a little bit, we work too fragmented. We don't work structured enough, and we work too fragmented. And we, to quote Dr. Torstein Posselt, that we had the pleasure of having at a similar kind of event this summer, he's saying there's several problems, right? And we are not working coordinated, and there's too much silo mentality. And I think these longer programs works. For instance, a direct challenge to NAV, who has really an opportunity. We are working with completely separate program in different regions. We give, even in Norway, we give one actor enough funding to run one program, or maybe one program a year, so that you can fail, but you can't learn from it and improve. So I think we need to coordinate and pull these resources together. And then, of course, when you do that, you can also, and that should include private-public partnerships, which there's a lack of in all of Europe. And the final thing is what we have seen some examples of now, but is really good measurements of effects and KPIs. But then there must be a systematic to it, and you need to be able to learn and move to the next level.
Ellen, did you have something to fill in?
Well, challenge taken, and when I will become the president of the USA, I will fix this NAV problem.
Hey,
okay. But you said immigrants, and that's another challenge with the system that I represent, because a lot of the immigrants do not have the possibility to receive unemployment money or the other benefit. And what do we do then? They are receiving the last sort of security net that we have, the municipality financial aid, and you are not allowed to, well, we can be, but we are very strict. Then you have to get a job. And I think that we sort of misses a lot of talents because of the system. So that's another thing I'm going to fix when I'm becoming the president of the USA.
You just got a whole bunch of votes.
Yes. So no, but that's a huge challenge actually. So we have to do something about that. We have to improve the system to.
I think also when we come to this discussion, talking about the greater lines, I think it's a other part as well. Empowering the individuals, that making sure that the people are actually doing the work. You know, look at all the women coming up now. It's amazing the role model that they're able to create. And I think over time, you know, if people get the knowledge and get the opportunity, they get support and help where to start their own company, you know, I think that's also very, very important. Because every single person, I met so many entrepreneurs where you go like, you would say, why are you starting your own company? That's crazy. With health issues, you know, but they want to. They find out what they're real passionate about, and they find that balance, work-life balance, that suits their life, and they will manage their economy as well through that process, and they become a role model. They're actually back into the labor market, created their own companies, and then you see other people get inspired. How did you do that? How was that? And then it comes 2, 3, 20, 40, many people, right? And you also see that in Norway now. It's coming. We're a little bit slow when it comes to startup scene, but you know, it's becoming amazing. All the work that you guys are doing, you know, it's coming along. And also the programs that now supports see that entrepreneurs are actually contributing. And those who don't start, but join an entrepreneurship program, the skill sets that you need to tackle in order to start your own company, that is brilliant to also bring into the labor market in a job setting as well.
Anita, that you mentioned earlier today, she told me that one of the things that have come out of the program is not necessarily that everybody starts a company, because as we've learned when they started Gründeria and Colab and all these places, you sometimes learn that this company was not such a good idea, but they actually never end up going back into the system again. They get the confidence and the skill set they need to actually join the labor force, and win-win. It doesn't really matter. Not everybody's supposed to start and run a company. That's really important to remember as well.
Good point.
Does anyone have anything else to add before we round up? Thank you so much for taking the challenge and joining me on stage today.